The TAM was the fruit of a cleverly executed initiative. It was once the most promising fighting vehicle in its class. Still, the fate of this medium tank has been unfortunate. As the weapon detective, we're now investigating the TAM and which factors have blocked its expected success. The TAM takes its name from the initials of the Tanque Argentino Mediano, meaning Argentine medium tank. However, considering it as just a medium tank is wrong. It is a member of a family with all related armored vehicles for an armored mechanized unit. So, in this video, we will briefly mention the other variants, but focus on the TAM. The Argentine indigenous tank development efforts go back to the 1940s. In those years, it developed the Nahuel DL-43. However, after 12 tanks were produced, this project was terminated in 1944. Since plenty of surplus tanks and armored vehicles were available after the Second World War, Argentina procured some M4 Shermans and M3 half-tracks at low prices or even for free. By the 1960s, these vehicles had become obsolete. However, its primary supplier, the U.S.A., had been involved in the Vietnam War in those years, which had caused acquisition problems on military equipment. On top of that, Washington was against the June 1966 coup. So, the U.S.A. turned down Argentina's request for more equipment. Thus, Buenos Aires turned to Europe and procured 1950s vintage AMX-13 light tanks, AMX VCI armored personnel carriers, and Mark F3 155mm self-propelled howitzers from France. Some of these vehicles were produced locally. In those years, Argentina was experiencing a severe border dispute with Chile, and its relationship with Brazil was not smooth. So, the Argentine Army requested a new tank to enter service in the 1980s as a possible replacement for its Sherman fleet. Argentina considered the US M60, French AMX-30, and German Leopard 1. After a brief evaluation, the Argentine Army determined that they were unsuitable for its operational requirements, and Buenos Aires decided to initiate a domestic Tanque Argentino Mediano tank development program. This program also included developing and producing other variants such as infantry fighting vehicles and self-propelled howitzers. Yet, the Argentine military-industrial capabilities were insufficient for such an ambitious program. So, Argentina turned to Germany. The German Hensche Werftechnik company began development efforts of the TAM based on the Marder 1 tracked armored infantry fighting vehicle in 1974. The first prototype was produced in Germany in 1976. After the company trials, 3 prototype vehicles were sent to Argentina for operational and firing tests. Then, the local TAM S company continued development efforts, and more than 1,450 engineering modifications were introduced into the production variants. The serial production phase began in 1979. The first TAM was delivered to the 8th Tank Cavalry Regiment in 1981. 70% of the components were manufactured locally, while the remaining came from Germany, including the transmission, optics, and fire control system. Initially, Argentina planned to acquire 512 TAM medium tanks and VCTP infantry fighting vehicles. However, due to financial reasons, the production was completed in 1983 after about 350 systems had been built. Between 1994 and 1995, TAM S produced another 120 vehicles for the Argentine Army. The hull of the TAM is based on the Marder 1, but strengthened to deal with the increased weight and the stress caused by firing the 105mm gun. It is made of all-welded nickel-chromium molybdenum steel, which is 50mm thick at the front and 35mm thick at the sides and rear. The turret is also made of the same material with a 50mm thickness at the front, 22mm at the sides, and 7mm at the top. The armor can withstand up to 40mm armor-piercing rounds. The survivability is also enhanced by an NBC filter and a fire extinguishing system that can be operated manually or automatically. The TAM has 2 escape hatches, one on the floor and the other at the rear hull. The rear hatch can be used for rapid ammunition reload. The power pack is positioned on the right of the driver, which also increases the protection. The low-weight TAM has a high power-to-weight ratio of 24 horsepower per ton and low ground pressure of 0.788 kilograms per square centimeter, which gives the tank excellent mobility. It can be fitted with two 200-liter long-range diesel fuel tanks at the rear. The TAM has a combustion heater for cold engine starts and the crew compartment. The commander, gunner, and loader are located inside the turret. There is an ammunition loading port on the left. The commander has a non-stabilized panoramic sight. It is identical to that fitted to the Leopard 1 and can be replaced by a night sight. The commander also operates the coincidence rangefinder. The tank's 105mm FMK4 Modelo 1L main armament was developed in Argentina based on the Rheinmetall's RH-105-30 gun. It has a bore evacuator and a thermal sleeve and is fully stabilized on both axes. Unlike the RH-105-30, the FMK4 Modelo 1L has no muzzle brake. Its rate of fire is 10 rounds per minute. The TAM carries 50 105mm ammunition, 20 of which are in the turret. Its 105mm M375A1 armor-piercing, fin-stabilized discarding subtracer munition can penetrate 370mm steel at a range of 1000 meters, while the M456A1 high-explosive anti-tank tracer rounds can penetrate 430mm steel. The four-person crew of the TAM consists of the commander, driver, gunner, and loader. The tank is 8.23 meters long, 3.29 meters wide, and 2.71 meters high. Its combat weight is 30 tons. The 720 horsepower MTU MB 833KA500 diesel engine provides a maximum road speed of 75 km per hour. The range of the TAM is 900 km. The tank can negotiate 1 meter vertical steps and 2.5 meter trenches. It can fort to a depth of 1.5 meters. The TAM has the 105mm FMK4 Modelo 1L rifled main gun and two 7.62mm mag machine guns. Let's briefly look at the modernization efforts of the TAM. In 2002, Argentina decided to modernize 20 TAMs, equipping them with an Israeli thermal sight and the Garmin 12 GPS. Its battery performance would also be increased. This variant was called TAM S21. However, due to budget problems, the program was terminated after 6 tanks were upgraded. When Chile acquired the Leopard 2A4 in 2007, Argentina put TAM modernization on the agenda once more. The modernized variant, called the TAM 2C, is fitted with an Elbit Systems-made 3-axis gyro stabilization, a thermal imager for the gunner and commander, a thermal sleeve for the barrel, an auxiliary power unit, and the barrel-launched Lahat anti-tank missile capability. The tank also received a new turret storage basket. However, by 2020, only one tank had been fully modernized. Some sources claim Buenos Aires is considering canceling this modernization program and replacing the TAM with a wheeled vehicle. On the other hand, Argentina unveiled the TAM 2C-A2 variant in 2023. It is known that the Argentine Army's trials on the tank are currently ongoing. Alongside the systems integrated into the 2C variant, the vehicle has a new gunner sight and hunter-killer engagement capability. In 2016, Elbit Systems unveiled the TAM 2IP prototype with a new passive composite armor across the front and sides of the turret and the front hull. The TAM 2C IP variant combines the features of the C and IP modernization programs. We should also look at the other variants of the tank to better understand why the TAM program is a brilliant initiative. The VCTP is the infantry fighting vehicle model with a 2-person turret armed with a 20mm cannon. It also has two 7.62mm machine guns, one on the top of the commander cupola and the other with the TPA-1 remote control weapon station at the rear. The VCTP can carry 10 infantry. The mortar carrier variant with the 120mm TDA AM50 mortar is the VCTM. The VCPC is the command post member of the family. The VCA 155 self-propelled howitzer has a lengthened chassis with 7 road wheels on either side. It is fitted with the same turret as installed on the Italian Palmaria. The TAM also has many non-serial variants such as the VCLC multiple launch rocket system, VCA ambulance, VCRT recovery, AMUN ammunition carrier, VCCDT fire direction center, VCDA self-propelled anti-aircraft gun, VCLP bridge layer, and VCLM air defense missile launcher. Argentina also worked on the TAP, a 40-ton version of the tank. The Argentine Army had already received some TAMs just before the 1982 Falklands War. Still, instead of them, it decided to deploy a dozen AML-90s into the islands. These tanks were used in some military coup attempts in Argentina between 1987 and 1990. Argentina deployed 17 VCTPs into Croatia for the United Nations UNPROFOR peacekeeping mission. So, the TAM has never seen combat. The TAM and its derivative were tailor-made armored vehicles for Argentina. Its designers had considered the country's railroad, bridges, road capacities, and its varied terrain. The tank has low ground pressure and a high power-to-weight ratio, which gives the TAM high tactical and strategic mobility. When the TAM was designed in the 1970s, these features were more essential than ballistic protection. The neighboring countries, like Chile and Brazil, had only the Second World War vintage M4 Shermans alongside the M41 Walker Bulldog light tanks. So, the TAM was far superior than its rivals in mobility and firepower, and was not poorly protected compared to them. Besides, creating a family based on the same hull reduced the logistical burden and made crew, mechanic, and technician training easier. This fact also minimized the design, production, and lifecycle costs dramatically. Since the AMX-13 had the same design philosophy, producing whole vehicles with the same hull in an armored mechanized unit was not new. However, the TAM family was superior to the AMX-13 family in every way. The TAM's potential alarmed Argentina's rivals. Chile immediately acquired the AMX-30s first, and then the Leopard 1s. The Brazilian army preferred the M60s alongside the Leopard 1s. The TAM was still more mobile, but lost its firepower advantage. Also, its potential adversaries now had superior protection. By the late 1980s, the TAM could not meet the Argentine Army's operational requirements alone. But two factors, the Falklands War and the changing world, became more decisive on the TAM's fate. After the defeat in the Falklands, the military junta was overthrown. We must accept that the junta committed countless crimes for humanity. We cannot excuse it. Still, if we put the evil aside, we may say that it was highly beneficial for the military industry. After the junta was gone, the Argentine's military industry began to regress. The economic burden of the Falklands War and the imposed embargo after that also made keeping the success of the Argentine's military industry impossible. The instability in Argentina in the 1980s blocked many possible sales. Ecuador, Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Malaysia, Panama, Peru, and Saudi Arabia were closely interested in the TAM. But who wants to buy a military vehicle from an unreliable source suffering economic and political turmoil? This was not the only case. Many potential buyers also experienced economic problems. Besides, Saudi Arabia and Iraq blocked the possible Iran sale, while Israel caused the same situation in the Saudi Arabia sale. Then, the First Cold War ended, and many light tank users, the potential buyers of the TAM, postponed their plans to replace their existing fleets. Yes, Argentina had many problems, preventing the TAM's market success. Still, economically and politically stable Germany could not sell them the TH301, the German variant of the TAM, either. The TAM family with the medium tank and its derivatives was a brilliant initiative in its time, but this period ended quickly. It had the potential to make the Argentine's military industry a world player. However, Argentina lost this opportunity because of the instability and reactions after the Falklands War. Thanks for watching our video. And please don't forget to subscribe to our channel and click the bell button to be notified of our new videos. Also, you can now click the join button to support our channel. And as always, we would greatly appreciate all of your likes, comments, and shares.